brown patch could use a little H2O. Here's your look at the brand new Super 7, the Simpsons Ultimate Duffman. As seen in The Simpsons, like many of the most successful corporate pitchmen, Duffman may have become more recognizable than the product he's promoting. This 7-inch scale, highly articulated Simpsons Ultimates Duffman figure features premium detail and comes with interchangeable heads and hands and a variety of other accessories, including a Duff Beer 7-pack, Duff No. 1 foam hand, and Santa's little helper, Suds McDuff. Duffman can't breathe. Just before we get a closer look, though, at the Simpsons Ultimates Duffman, tape measure is going to tell us that the figure stands at 7 inches in height, or Duffman is 18 centimeters tall. Pretty sure two of Duff's biggest customers. Here's what Duffman first looks like with Mo Sizlak. Here's what the figure also looks like with Deep Space Homer. We would have had a Barney, would have been an ideal time to bring him in as well, but we already know, like, the line is coming to a close. We don't even have ourselves a regular citizen dressed Homer Simpson, which is one of the biggest shames about this line, that we never got ourselves the actual Simpsons family members, considering this is the Simpsons Ultimates line. I'm also still kind of a bit bummed that I never got the apron for Mo Sizlak. I reached out to Super 7. They basically told me in so many words I had to reach out to the company where I bought the figure from, but that was Entertainment Earth, and I bought Mo so long ago, they don't have the replacement aprons anymore. A couple of other comparisons we can make. Here's what the figure looks like, though, with Ralph Wiggum, just because we just recently had a look at Ralph. And here's also what the figure looks like with Montgomery Burns. Duffman comes with a lot of hands. First, the figure comes included with a closed fist hand. The hand itself, I think, was actually already on the figure when I first took him out of the packaging. I just have removed it since from its forearm. He does also have a gripping hand, which I've just, well, actually would have been this hand here. I would have already removed this hand in favor of this hand here. Comes with a couple of gripping hands. The hand that I feel is the best for holding the 7-pack of Duffs. Actually, I'm using that hand for that. It just seems to be the best hand for that. The figure also comes included with a pointing hand. All of these, by the way, have been molded here in white plastic. I don't have any problems really with the paint. You'll see in a second. There's bigger paint problems elsewhere. The figure also comes with a saluting hand. He also comes included with a devil horn hand. A couple of gestured hands, which I suppose would also double up as also gripping hands, but again, like, he doesn't really have a whole lot of things to grip onto. And then he also comes with a slightly relaxed hand as well. Again, I've already removed one of the hand. I think it was this hand here, more specifically for the next things. And now he comes included with a 7-pack. Now, I don't know whereabouts the 7th Duff beer would have really dangled down from. Obviously, you normally have bought a 6-pack like this, but it's got Duff printed all on the sides. None of these, by the way, are removable, and not even this one is removable either, which is my only one. There's an irony to the fact that Duffman has as many beers as he does. It's all around his belt. It also is the fact that he gets a 7-pack of this. But the funny thing, though, is that none of these beers are removable. You would think, though, that Duffman, he's Duffman after all, would have had at least one, maybe two extra Duff, just regular beer cans. Homer Simpson, considering we did get ourselves Deep Space Homer that had like all of those, airborne flying potato chips. Look how small those things were. That, if anything, if you're going to entertain the idea that Homer would have come included with all those chips, you would think at the very least Duffman would have also come included with one extra spare can of Duff. By the way, none of these are removable, so I tried to pry this one off, thinking in the off chance that this was something that could be removed. I was quickly disappointed to find that you can't take this off. You could probably take it off, but it would just only break the plastic. It does, though, fit into his hands. The hand that I have right now basically is the best hand for the job. You basically just clip the hand in there. But it seems really so out of place, the fact he's holding one can and then everything else is dangling down beside it. And again, like, none of these are removable cans either. The figure also comes included with the Duff foam finger. It looks nice. It's all molded here in red plastic. It's got number 1 on the top, Duff beer there on the front. On the back, nothing. This, by the way, again, can be swapped out. If you're looking at the hands, by the way, I know this whole time of talking about these, the hands, by the way, are fairly easy to remove. You just wiggle them back and forth till you finally remove them from the post. Pop the hand that you want to then use, and then you basically have yourself the foam finger. The unfortunate irony in all this is that Duffman doesn't have... Duffman! I promise I won't keep doing that. Duffman only has a single hinge in his elbow. So, unfortunately, he doesn't even have... I guess you probably could use this hand, too. But in both cases, let me just get this in here, it only bends so far. So you kind of have to compensate for the fact that with very little of a hinge in the elbow and very little of a hinge there in the foam finger. That's pretty much as Duffman's going to be able to hold up the foam finger. Would have liked if he could have actually had a double hinge in his elbow, or a greater hinge at the very least, because I know usually with these Super 7 Ultimate figures, they don't ever get double hinges on their elbows or even a wider hinge. But Duffman suffers so much by the fact he can't actually have his hand. I guess you could have it up, just straight up like this, and maybe even turn it so at least other people can see around him what's going on here. I wish there was a lot more you could do with the foam hand than what you're doing right now. Just pop the hand right out and replace it back with the gripping hand. And then also Duffman, if I get his arm just to straighten out here, some of the paint seems to be built up there in the joints, but again, we'll talk more about that in a moment. Duffman comes with 3 different facial expressions. One of which happens to be the smiling face that he has right now. He also has just a regular, I don't even say like regular, because like if you're looking at the two, basically one just shows more teeth. This one has only really teeth on the top. This one has like a full grill going on here. Either one of these heads would be ideal for really changing with the figure and having displayed with the figure. The one that really just doesn't get me so much, even though again it's episode specific, is the fact he does have the sticker on the face head. This sticker, by the way, is removable. You don't have to commit to the idea of always displaying it. But to remove it is kind of frightful. It kind of looks like he's blowing a bubble. This basically is just a peg on the inside of this, and you can kind of see Duffman's face on the inside. And that basically just fits inside his mouth like that. Whether you decide you want to display the figure with the face sticker or remove it, either way, I don't think this is a head sculpt I would ever see myself displaying with the figure. That's just me. But again, that just basically plugs in place. If you, though, did want to change out... Hold on a second. Let's just put the hand back in place. Looks like right now he looks like Hordak. Let's pop the hand back in place. If you did want to change the heads, this, by the way, is the one that started the packaging with. You kind of even see that there's... I don't think they've actually painted the pupils. It doesn't look to be the case. The glasses are permanently attached, so don't try to remove them. You basically looks like you're going to get white eyes underneath. If you did want to change out the head, it's just a case popping it off the ball joint. Super easy to change. Just pop the new head in place. Put a little bit of pressure. I say a little bit. There we go. Probably had to put a little bit more pressure. But again, like either one of these heads is good. I just don't see myself ever really wanting to display the figure with the sticker face, which again, I feel like that's one of those examples of, sure, yes, it's a referenced accessory, but referenced in the way that anyone would ever see themselves displaying with the figure. Would you ever see yourself the time you'd ever want to display Duffman with the Duff sticker on his face? I can't. As for the rest of the details on the figure, again, like the head sculpt's really good on this guy. The hat also, as you can see, does have the Duff on the top. He's got the glasses there on the front. Nice overall paint there on the top, rows of teeth. And of course, he's got the little tongue on the inside there. Duffman's got a lot of hair there on the front of his chest. Duffman also has the Duff printing on the front of his chest there as well on his t-shirt. And he also has a cape on the back. The cape is a wire. There's a wire right here. There's a wire right here. And there's also, well, there's no wire on the bottom here. But really between the two, you can bend the wire as there's a little bit of give to it. So if you want to have it kind of looking like Duffman's got his cape blowing in the wind, you can do that if you want to. The thing that I like about the figure is that they didn't cheapen out by the way they've labeled the cans. The cans look just as good as they do on the front as they do on the back. I mean, really, they could have phoned it in because the cape's going to be covering over the cans anyways. This section right here, they probably could have just done a slightly messier job and nobody would be any bit the wiser other than just people just pointing that out. The thing, unfortunately, about this is none of these cans are removable. I feel, if anything, if they didn't want to take the time to include Duff cans as a separate accessory, they could have also added pegs. Now, I know on one side you would say, well, pegs are a good idea because you can remove the cans, you can put them in his hand. Pegs, unfortunately, would also give you one other problem, too, is that the peg would either have to be attached to the can or it would have to be attached to the belt. Either way, though, if you removed one of the cans, ultimately what you'd be facing underneath it is either a hole in his belt or you'd also be facing a peg. Would either one of those look ugly? The answer would probably be yes. So I can understand why they didn't decide to have any of these cans removable. But at the very least, Duffman, the spokesperson for Duff, really need to have separate cans of Duff as well. Details down below, again, like paint pretty good other than a few little areas here. Now, I mentioned earlier that he's got some problems with his joints. So he's got a little bit of paint problems, and again, I can only express it on the one that I have in front of me, but he also has a lot of buildup of paint here in his joints. It's not every so often Super 7 releases an Ultimate figure, at least from my own experiences with them, where the paint's really built up. It's built up here in the shoulders, so it's a harder thing really to bring the shoulders out just because I've scraped off already a fair bit of paint, but also as well in his elbows. For what little there is for a hinge, there's a little bit of paint also there as well. And you probably can see it even more though with the elbows. This is the part already that's rubbing back and forth. So when you're, if you have the arm ever really low like this, which you probably don't, I'm going to most likely have the elbow bent like this, but if you wanted to have it straight down, you would see very much the obvious areas where the paint has scraped or rubbed itself off. But other than that, I mean, like, the paint's pretty good on him for the most part. It's only really just in the joints, and it's just that one little dollop of paint that just happens to be right there on the white glove. For the details down, let's look at the articulation now for the figure. Duffman, though, does have the ball joint in the head, so, I mean, with that ball joint, he does get a good bit of freedom with being able to move his head all the way around. It looks up that high, it looks down that low. You can also move it back and forth as well. Again, when we get to the limitations, the restrictions I have with the shoulders, I think it isn't so much the joint. The joint gives you about a 90-degree angle bend. The problem with it, though, is, again, with mine, is it just feels like there's paint built up right in there that I sure can bring out the arms, but when I bring them out, I feel like I'm fighting against something that's imaginary. There's something probably in there that, you know, again, it's probably just the paint. The arms rotate all the way around. Duffman also does have a swivel in his arm, which again, like, looking at the hinge joint, it would look like there's a lot of joint to work with there. But unfortunately, like, if you have the arm bent like this, his arm's going to bend in a real awkward way. You probably would either want to have it this way, which right away, you're starting to reduce that joint by quite a lot. Or if you want to have it bend, that's as far, unfortunately, that you're able to bend it. So a lot of bicep, there's very little hinge joint. And again, like, from the design of the character, short of maybe had they just shortened the glove, like if they just brought it in a little bit further, they could have increased the width of the joint. That's the only other way that they probably could have accommodated the bending of the elbow, bending better than what it is right now. The hands do rotate all the way around. You can hinge them back and forth. Duffman doesn't have any swivel, and I can see certainly reasons why. There's a lot going on here. I mean, obviously with the cans and the fact that, like, his torso is so close to that. He swivels down below here, but I mean, essentially, like, this belt and this torso all seem as one piece. So when he does swivel, he's actually swiveling more from the waist down than anything else. Legs split out. They only go to about there just because the cans are going to get in the way of things. You can bring the legs forward, you can bring them back. A little bit of a swivel there at the top of the thigh. There is a single hinge on the knee, and to their credit, I like that they've at least made it somewhat seamless. Seamless, I mean, somewhat. I mean, you can obviously see the seam line right there where the lower half of his boots are going to be cut differently from the tops of his legs. But at least for where they've hid the joint, from a distance, it actually looks like it's all just one leg. So he has the bend in the knee, so it bends about that far. And then for his ankle, they move back and forth, and they also rock back and forth this way as well. Again, peg holes in the bottoms of the feet. I feel like I'm not as soured the fact that we got ourselves like Duffman. I feel a little bit more soured the fact that we would get ourselves like a Deep Space Homer. And there are, again, a couple of example characters from the Simpsons Ultimates line where I have very honestly, openly said, like, Super7, I think, chose the wrong characters. Robot, Itchy, and Scratchy should have never really existed. I mean, even really for that matter, like Ralph. We just recently looked at Ralph. Ralph, I would have definitely released a little bit later into the line. One other thing, actually, one other accessory too, I'm also failing to point out, and is the fact that we also get ourselves Santa's Little Helper. Santa's Little Helper was way off to the side here this whole time. Never really got the chance to have a look at him as part of, obviously, the accessories that come included with the figure. So, hold on a second. Let's just move let's move Homer out of the way. Just move over Duffman. Yeah, we also get ourselves a Santa's Little Helper, which, again, it was just way off to the side. I can't believe I almost even overlooked him. We got Santa's Little Helper basically as Suds McDuff, spokesperson. It's essentially, though, I mean, it's a different head sculpt, but it looks like they probably used a lot of the same mold elements. If you're also asking yourself, can you remove the heads and swap them out? It doesn't seem to be the case. You can swivel them, sure, back and forth, but even if you were to swap the heads out, I don't think you can. It doesn't seem like there's a stubborn ball joint. I don't even really want to fight with it. I mean, sure, yes, there's the swivel back and forth, but I would feel like I would jeopardize probably breaking off the peg. Show you guys the differences between the two. We've got, again, our sitting version of Santa's Little Helper, and then again we've got ourselves the Santa's Little Helper that came also included with Bartman. Wow, I can't believe I forgot that. But yeah, we got ourselves there again. Suds McDuff, nice little inclusion. I don't think I'm as, again, disappointed the fact that we did get him as the accessory. I'm really honestly more disappointed the fact that we never got ourselves an extra can of Duff. One or two I think have gone a long way. Granted, we don't really have a lot of patrons. Mo, we could have given at least one of the Duffs to. Had we been, and again, I'll just for this slide back over Duffman. bring back in. And finishing up the point I really was going to talk about, had we gotten ourselves just a regular dressed Homer, I mean, ideally it would have been a perfect thing to include one of the Duff cans, so we could have given it to Homer instead. Not that he would necessarily be wanting to drink out in space. Oh, who are we kidding? Homer's going to want, of course, drink out in space. The problem with this, though, is, as I was saying before I completely forgot about Suds McDuff, is that I'm not as bitter by the fact that we did get ourselves here a Duffman. Duffman, I think, is a worthy example. Poochie should have never even existed, or at the very least, Poochie should have come way later into this line. Duffman, again, I'm a little bit more accepting the idea that, you know, like with every wave, I think everything that Super7 should have done when it came to the Simpsons Ultimate Figures, each wave should have had like one primary character, one Simpsons member, one supporting character, and then either like an episode specific cut character that's only again in really one episode, or again like another supporting character. So at least at the very least, you would have got yourself a Simpsons family member with every single wave. It wasn't the case. Duffman, though, again, I'm not disappointed at all. He's a nice looking figure, but again, like, for the fact that this guy came as early as he did, and maybe it's one of the similar things to Ralph, being that he came as early as he did at the expense that we never got ourselves a Simpsons family member is, again, the more bittersweet pill. But again, I'm a little bit more accepting the fact that we got ourselves Duffman than perhaps Ralph Wiggum. Here in final looks, and one more for the road, there's nothing symmetrical about flavor. We've got Duffman displayed here, not only with a 7-pack of Duff beer, but also as well as foam finger. Suds McDuff is also joining along with him. I feel a little bad, of course, that I'd left him near the end of the review to actually mention that he's one of the included accessories. You know, though, speaking of Suds, or more so, speaking of Santa's Little Helper, other than really Homer Simpson, because we are getting that Moo Moo release, he's the only other Simpsons family member, or Simpsons character for that matter, that has gotten 2 releases. Because when you think about it, there was already the Bartman release of Santa's Little Helper that was tearing up the first issue of Radioactive Man #1. And now with Suds McDuff, so the second time we've gotten ourselves Santa's Little Helper. Poor Snowball has not gotten any release, but for that matter as well, we haven't gotten ourselves a Lisa either. I like the look, though, of Duffman. The only gripe I could really make about him, while I don't feel like nothing is really wasted on plastic, maybe the alternate head sculpt that has the Duff sticker on the front of his face, I think is really unnecessary. I probably would have instead used that plastic that they wasted for that head sculpt specifically, and instead just given him a couple of extra Duffs for the road. Yes, he has the 7-pack, but standalone beers would have worked rather nicely too, not only to be displayed with Moe, but also as well with Deep Space Homer. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. Do you feel like Duffman is a good choice? Duffman is a good choice for one of the releases, and do you feel he was too early of a release, considering that the line is now dying off? If you guys are interested to get your hands on Duffman and Suds McDuff for that matter, they are available right now at Entertainment Earth. I'll provide the link down below in the video description. That same link, by the way, will also save you, knock off the bats, 10%. That's not only for Simpsons, that's not only for Super7, that's anything that's currently in stock over on their site. If you guys did enjoy this video, want to throw it a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and would like to stick around for more, I hope so. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you haven't already, make sure you turn on the bell notification. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.